It is Mercury retrograde, so
I know a lot of electronic stuff going on. Oh, hello. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And I'm in the green room talking with Gayle. We're just waiting to go live. And I really appreciate these conversations. We have these conversations every time we get to go live with you. And I believe that we're in this space of like mindset transformation entertainment. If we can entertain our mind, which means kind of calm the stress, really hear what's going on in our heart, and some of the things are happening in our mind that can be our cycles. And I I think we grow every time we go live. It's like I feel like it's a mastermind. We bring in these people that have been doing their work year over year, working with clients, going out and speaking, really sharing and learning and listening, leaning in so that they can keep giving their best too. I really do care about our community, the new people coming in for Fresh Talks Global Vision. My name is Rhonda Liebig, and I am the host and producer of this show. And this all became something even bigger for me when I started looking at that bigger picture of this is not all about me. This is not about the show, Fresh Talks Global Vision. This is just that we get to tether anybody in that is like all for looking at the bigger vision of stuff. How can we change, uh, crowd out some of these things that are happening that we know it's like, wow, all these things are going on. I just want to be happy. So I believe we're crowding out all that chaos, but we're also partnering with a collective like you to be able to talk about things that are really important about the human experience here in life. So if you're all into that, get a pen, get a piece of paper, get a journal, whatever, and get rocking because you're going to have transformation. And I want you to grab it. Grab quotes, grab whatever motivates you because that is what we're here for. You're here to step forward and open your wings, find that freedom in your space. And we are here to entertain you. And Gayle Nowak is here because Nowak. I put an R in there. I'm sorry. I'm
it's
sorry,
okay.
Gayle. People put an R in my last name, Liebig. I'm like, where'd that R come from? So I guess that's how it happens. Gayle, thank you for being here. And I want to do a proper introduction, but I tell you, it was very difficult for us to get on live today. And it makes me appreciate being in the space with you even more. How are you today?
I'm fabulous today. I'm excited to be here. I love what you're doing with Fresh Talks, and I really appreciate what you said about, this our work being more than you and me, and really having meaning and purpose behind it. And I know we're going to talk about visibility today, and
Mhm.
sometimes, visibility brings us back into ourselves, and that can be a good thing. It can also be something that maybe stands in the way of bringing our work out in a bigger way.
Yeah. It
And
feels
that's
like I want to hide sometimes.
yeah, of
We
course.
were talking about that. So let me get an intro for you because you're like, is it time for me to talk, Rhonda? I can keep going because I know you've been doing this for a long time. So let me get a good introduction for you because we're
Do it.
so excited. You know what I really liked when you first submitted your stuff and you said, "Man, I really want to partner with you on this." This really got me, Gayle, and I want everybody to feel this for yourself. What is it in your heart that you feel like you're partnering with us? It could be the next conversation at the store. It could be that you're actually a speaker out there speaking. I'd love to talk to you about being on the show if that's so. But what Gayle was talking about here is that she says, my mission centers around sacred visibility, helping spirited coaches, healers, change makers reclaim their voice and share their truth without fear, guilt, and shame. Much of my work is rooted in healing the wounds around visibility, especially the internalized shame that often comes from childhood trauma, cultural conditioning, or fear of judgment. I guide my clients to tell their stories and acts of liberation and leadership in my retreats. And she goes on just about coaching programs and speaking engagements, that it's about keeping safe space and just like being able to keep that safe space so that we can get creative. And this to me, when we start getting quiet and being able to feel safe in space, we start hearing words and phrases that we are saying to ourselves, like what Gayle was saying. And we also like what you were saying, Gayle, earlier about, well, when we're opening up and we're doing this, that can also sometimes make you feel small, but if you step into it, lean forward, you're just like, here, wait. This, I feel even, more proud of what I'm doing because I actually said it and there's some good reaction to it. So what, there's a thing here that Gayle brought in her bio, and I want to do a quick combination about this too. Imagine a world where sensitive, powerful people are no longer afraid to live, speak, and lead as their whole true selves. That's the vision that inspires today's guest, Gayle Nowak, a transformational communication and emotional wellness coach who supports spirit-led entrepreneurs in shredding old identities, reclaiming their voice and expressing their truth with confidence and clarity. Gayle is the creator of Sage Sensation, I love that you have a trademark, retreats, and founder of the award-winning company, The Story Stylist. She blends energy, work, emotional healing, and decades of storytelling and marketing expertise to guide coaches, healers, and change makers into soul-led leadership, aligned visibility, and authentic expression rooted into truth, care, and inner authority. Please welcome in Gayle Nowak. Gayle,
I'm here.
With this, I love the intro. There's definitely has to be a backstory here for you when it comes to stepping into what your higher purpose is and partnering with us, and how you're talking about opening the voice. That silent voice is really about, sometimes it's in there shaming you and you're starting to, catch on to those things. Can you give us some insight on getting to know you and that story behind that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for asking. And you're right, there is a story. For me, this work began long before I had a business, long before I even was thinking about having a business. And it, frankly, it comes from challenging circumstances. When I was 9 years old, I made a vow of silence. I had experienced abuse in my family, and I wanted to protect other people in my family at my own expense. As children, we do the best that we can with situations that we find ourselves in. And so for several years, I didn't speak. I didn't make waves. I felt like it wasn't safe to share the truth of what was going on. And then I finally did get the courage to share that truth. And people didn't believe me. And so I really received that as my voice didn't matter and my truth didn't matter. And so therefore I didn't matter. And every time I share this, I often think, Rhonda, this was the moment that I became aware of this silencing, this invisibility, but it was actually there even before that, if I'm going to be completely honest about things. But this was that moment of the awareness starting to bubble up to the surface. And that really shaped a lot of things for me, first not sharing the truth, and then sharing the truth and not being believed. And that solidifying a false belief about what that meant about me. Right. And so for decades, I carried that, and I was really good at being invisible while also looking successful, which is interesting. Right.
Yeah.
And this was across the board in my relationships and jobs and leadership roles. I knew how to show up. I knew how to be responsible. I knew how to say the right things, and all the while hiding the fears, the insecurities, the pain inside, until it finally got too much to bear. But before I got there, I started my business. And in 2013, it was really my business that brought up this next level of awareness of this pattern of showing up and yet hiding out at the same time, and silencing what was true for me. And it's funny because when you shift from, being an employee, that was my path. I was a journalist, and I was in PR, and I was in marketing, but I was working for someone else.
Yeah.
In a way, you have that safety net. Somebody else is writing your check. Somebody else is bringing in the business. Somebody else is maybe the face of that business. And when you shift into your own business, you are the voice, you are the face, you are responsible for all of it. And so, my diligence, my responsibility, the working hard, being the good girl, right? The good worker, the good student, all those things that worked really well in my career suddenly weren't working for me in my business. And the results weren't matching my effort. And that really started me thinking of like, okay, what's going on here? And at the same time, I started to break through and see some of these patterns from something unexpected, from doing work with my clients. And this is long before I understood, how transformation works, and how often our clients can be a mirror of what's wanting to be loved up within ourselves, what's wanting to come up for healing and transformation in ourselves. And my clients were trusting me with really deep, vulnerable truths. They felt safe with me. It was a place where they could share openly and not be judged or be rejected. And that really cracked something open in me and gave me the courage to look at my own buried wounds and realize that, like, if I'm going to show up and help others in this way, I really have to do the same for myself. And all this time I kept getting, you mentioned earlier, you were talking about sometimes when we're quiet, we hear things, right? We hear these voices. Yeah. And I kept, about 2 years into my business, I kept getting this message: you have to tell your story. You have to tell this story about abuse. And I was like, I don't see how this is relevant. I don't want to go there. I don't want to share this, kicking and screaming all the way until it was very clear to me that nothing was going to work until I looked at this. Yeah. And eventually I did share that story for the first time. And it wasn't I was terrified. I mean, I was literally sick to my stomach, and there was a lot, there's a whole show just about that whole process. But I'll try to make it concise here.
Gayle, and I want you to keep going, but Gayle, I just want to cry today. Like, this stuff is really touching me, and I want you to keep going. But that point there where you're at right now, I'm like, I can feel that it would be really hard to be able to open up and share that, because the first time that you did share with people that they weren't there for you, they just said that, no, that has to be a lie. It's like people have this mask on, pretending that everything is perfect, but right. People are getting hurt, and now you're trying to open up and express this, and now you have a business that you're trying to move forward, and you're like, I need to expose this, because this is authentically me, so I can feel it and be there for my clients and the things you're doing. And I do want you to keep moving forward, but I want to really point in here for the people that are taking notes or listening to this, that exactly this, if they have a situation like this, I think this part right here, where you're going to open up and share about how you did those next steps. So I'm really excited to hear if you could please move forward. But I feel like I'm in a growing space, which would probably be like a crying, because I'm becoming more real. I feel like we need to feel this every day so we can release those old patterns bigger and higher, so we can keep growing.
Yeah. And thank you, thank you for the pause and to key in on that point of it was, it was scary, because I'd already done this once and it didn't go well. Right. And that stays with you. And so there's a piece of you that is going to think that thinks it's going to happen again, or it's going to keep happening. And this is part of, we'll get into it more later, but this is why I like to work with energy first. And I like to take a healing centered approach, because these experiences do shape us. Mm-hmm. And so it was a lot to share that in a public way and to take that leap of faith. It literally was a leap of faith, because I wanted to make sense of it, and it didn't make any sense until I actually shared. Until I had the courage to share, only then was I able to connect the dots of like, oh my gosh, this is a whole evolution. There's an arc here. Like, this is why I care so much about other people's stories, about their voices, about them feeling like they're seen and heard. It was only until I was willing to go there that I was able to see, oh, this actually really does apply to the work that I'm doing in business.
Yeah. You know? And when we start sharing, I can hear this, that, and Gayle, did you feel this way? I knew that I was not fully opening up when I was doing my stuff, going out and speaking, or, I just kind of had this, or, working with clients, I could be vulnerable with them, exactly what you're saying. We're learning from them. But you know what I was in fear of? That everything was going to be taken away from me. The first time in my life, I finally felt, I want to back up for a moment. When you were saying that I was working for somebody, I was secure, and they do all the marketing, and, they're bringing the check. And so I get that. But, when you start becoming you, then the fear is, how do I keep this growing? And the thing is, you have to expose yourself.
Yeah.
And you think, well, I'm just speaking about myself. And so sometimes when you first start telling your story, it may actually look like it's all about you, because you're just awkward. You're just trying to figure it out. But then it gets deeper when you start seeing that people are leaning in and going, oh, I acknowledge what you're saying, because I can feel it, because I'm dealing with that, or I know so-and-so that's dealing with that. And it doesn't always have to be the same story for them. Can you share that about, to help our viewers here too? What were you working with to actually get the boldness to finally actually share this story? And then where did it take you once you released it out there?
So, great question. And so I'll share how it went for me. It does not have to go this way for other people, but I think it had to go this way for me so that I could create containers where I can help clients navigate through this, because it actually was re-traumatizing for me. And I don't regret it. I don't resent it. It was a learning experience for me. When I finally sort of surrendered and said, okay, fine. I was irritated. I was like, fine, I'll tell the story. Right. And just kind of ripped off the Band-Aid, but it did not have to go that way. And yet it went that way for me. And I believe that there's a reason behind that. And it really, it ripped off the Band-Aid, and it exposed a wound that was far deeper than I even recognized. And so it started with, first I had to tell this story to my husband, because I hadn't told him yet. And so I'm like, I'm going to be telling this to strangers, and I haven't even shared this with my husband. And that actually felt scarier to me. It actually felt easier to me even though it still felt scary, it felt easier to me to share with strangers than to share with somebody who knows
Is
me.
that interesting? I have a question for you, because you coach, and so I think this question is poignant of like, you're going to flow with this one. Wasn't it kind of good in some ways you told your husband? Because maybe you were showing up and doing all these different things, maybe passive aggressive, or there are these things that all of a sudden you started becoming aware of, and you got to share, your story. He goes, oh, that's, how'd that go for sharing with somebody that you've been spending time with, and you go, it's really time for me to share this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what I mean. I was this was impacting all areas of my life, right? There was a barrier between the level of intimacy, and I just mean emotional intimacy, with my husband because of this, because I was hiding this from him and holding this back, right? And that was going to put limits on our relationship, right? So yes, so I just kind of dove in, and sometimes, this is just me. This is who I am. Sometimes I make a decision, and then I'm all in, and I'm full throttle, and consequences be damned. So, and I have to sort of pull back and be like, okay, let's think about that. Let's take a moment. What do I need now? What do I need now? Right. And I had a lot of healing to do in the process of this. And you're right. You mentioned something in the question that you asked leading up to this. You mentioned something about first it's us, and then it becomes it's not even about us anymore.
Yeah.
So that was 2015 when I first shared that story, and here we are 10 years later, and it's not about me anymore. The story's not about me anymore, right? Because I've done the healing work, I've done the inner work, I've made peace, I've had a lot of conversations with people involved in the story, and it's something that has shaped my path, for better, for worse. But like you said, the more I shared it and the more impact that I saw, things that I never would have expected, and the feedback that I got, I recognized I was getting that message, not as, first it was for me, right? It was for me, you need to do some work around, you need to take care of yourself around this. And when you do, it's going to have an impact on other people. And so it's not about me anymore. I mean, it helps people understand where I'm coming from, sure. And it helps them, determine whether or not they like me and want to work with me. And it's so much more than that. Right? It's like, you're not alone. We've all experienced trauma. Instead of sweeping it under the rug, let's talk about it. And let's talk about how to transmute that and turn that into something purposeful and meaningful.
I like it. I'm still so I'm just feeling this today. I'm really and I know that this journey keeps going. And sometimes we can have some real sensitive ginger days where we're like, I need to do some more quiet time. I need to do something that's different because of the things I've been doing. I need to go in deeper. And those things I was doing yesterday, I'm doing something bigger because we keep opening up. And the more that I know that the more that we opened up our vessel, like our body, to be able to experience more and to calm our nervous system so we can get in deeper with things, the more this stuff hits the fan, and so can we talk about that? I want to talk about how that shows up once you start doing that work to clear that as you're doing with your clients. But I like how you say, I'm here for the truth telling, the liberation, and the conversations that shift things at a soul level. So when we start looking at that soul level and almost like a contract, like, hey, you're here to be able to have these experiences so you can open yourself up and you can stand in where the meaning of why you are here on earth, and the work that you actually get to do, which is be at that soul liberation kind of a space. So for you, now that you have opened this up and you start talking to the people that you're close with, you're working with your clients, but now you're even deeper with them because you're noticing that you're even opening up more. What do you notice happen for you and your clients when you start doing this work and being able to get at that liberation at that soul level? What happens? What's that space? How can you explain that as they agree that they're on this journey and they start going through it instead of battling it and maybe not stepping fully into the coaching or whatever it is, but you start seeing them flow? What does that look like?
Yeah, it looks like trusting yourself more. It looks like expanding your capacity to be with uncomfortable things, right? it's not all unicorns and rainbows. In fact, I love that you said, the more you do this, the more things come up. And what shifts is the way that you respond, your ability to move through it with maybe a little bit more grace and ease, or your ability to move through it with compassion. Things still get messy sometimes, right? But
yeah,
the dialogue that, the inner monologue, I should say, that you're having with yourself is maybe different now. Maybe you're saying, of course you would react that way. And like, what are we going to do about it now? Instead of, oh my God, I'm a horrible person, shifting out of that inner critic, right? That internalized shame, and validating yourself. Yeah. Of course you would be angry about that, or of course you would be sad about that. And like, what do we want to be different now? What do we want to shift? How do we want to show up with this information?
yeah.
Right. And that's a really powerful place to be, when you're free to kind of show up as who you are and speak what's true, and be with whatever comes as a result of it, without beating yourself up over it.
I love this conversation.
Responsibility. I want to be clear, taking responsibility, but also without beating yourself up over it.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one. I was thinking about this, about like you're taking the responsibility at how you've been doing this for so long. And I want to kind of talk more about this before we really get into this last part of the conversation, how we can connect with you more, because I want to know more about how to get this information, because you have a great book, that ebook that you have for everybody. I started going through it last night. You know what I'm learning, Gayle, is that I don't ever want to do those quote unquote small lies. They like white lies or something. Like somebody will say, "Oh, just go tell somebody you're busy because of blah blah blah," and I'm like, no, I want to be straightforward. I want to crack open and be, as clear as possible. Like, why don't I want to spend time with that person? Why do I have to say I'm busy because of blah blah blah? Or why am I not stepping in and doing something? And that conversation, I think, brings people together, even if there's a reason why you have to express to them that something is just not working for you. So you get in those real conversations and you start becoming more bold. And like what you were saying is that you have these bigger conversations and you're ready for it, but it's still scary because it's new.
Yeah.
So what is that you're noticing that your clients, when you're going out and you're speaking, like what happens for people, like in results, when they start really, they've been doing the work and now they're like, I need to be open, I'm exposed, and this is the best way, because I never want to hide anything. I want to keep everything flowing through the heart and not feeling like I'm trying to filter myself before I say something. What are you seeing out there with your clients? And I think this is a global vision too, that the potential that can happen in the human experience by really doing this work and what you're talking about.
Well, it all goes back to the truth, right, Rhonda? I mean, it's honesty. It's showing up as honest as you can, right? And I mean, I have a program. My 90-day program is Authentic Connection and Healthy Business Relationships. And so that is what happens. You have deeper, richer relationships with clients, with employees, with collaborators, with your family, with your friends, with your partners. And, we live in a world that teaches us to be fake, right? That says it's okay to do these little white lies. But we're limiting our connection. And isn't it interesting that we're so digitally connected? We're more connected than we've ever been as a society. And yet we're going through this epidemic of depression and loneliness and division and strife and despair, because we're not in alignment with our soul, with our heart, with who we are at our core. Yeah. Right. And I also want to make this distinction of this phrase, speak the truth, right? Like, or share my truth, or there's a way to do that that's mature and healthy and responsible. And there's a way to do that, because we live in a planet of duality, that is very shadow-like and is used as an excuse to be cruel, right? And so what you and I are talking about is true authenticity, true, like, this is me as I am. I know this is uncomfortable for you to hear. I know this may be disappointing for you to hear. And this is truly where I'm at. Right. And let's name it. Let's talk about it. Let's decide together, what's next for us. And maybe what's next for us is we part ways, but we part ways with respect, and there's no hard feelings. And maybe we go deeper into whatever it is we were creating before, right? And so there seems to be a lot of fear around the consequences of telling the truth. And I do love that saying of, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
Oh, I haven't heard that other part. It'll piss you off.
Yeah. Right. And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
But if we're not being open to what's true, it's going to limit our opportunities. It's going to limit our relationships. It's going to limit our success.
Yeah, I'm loving this discussion. If we in this world started really talking authentic, and it came from the heart, and it's just words, but those words hurt so bad. And but the less you're in the ego, the mind, the battling area where you're just like, come on, I just want to fight about this because I don't like how you're talking to me, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. But it's more like coming from the heart and the energy and doing that spiritual work. You start recognizing something different that can happen in the world. So what do you see in this world if we really were able to, as a collective, not everybody out there, because there's so much fighting and stuff. It's not that I want to battle out there, but as a collective with like-minded people, as we keep growing, what do you think how could that change lives by us being able to see each other in a bigger group and just keep growing? I call it #speaker locking arms. Like, we really are telling the truth. We're holding space for people with other thoughts about their vision in life. But how could this change in a trajectory if you had these groups that were just bringing up that frequency in this world and learning how to speak in a very deep, straightforward way?
I think it would change everything. I think that's probably one of the most loving acts that you can do, is to learn how to speak in this way, right? We know how to debate with each other, and not that there isn't a place for debate, right? For respectful debate. We know how to judge each other for having a different perspective.
Yeah.
And what's possible when we're able to regulate our own emotions and be unattached to people always agreeing with our point of view, or the need to be right about something, and just receive from others. I mean, that's a completely different dynamic than what we have right now. I personally believe that we're moving in that direction. I'm seeing groups who are really diving into this work and giving people the emotional and the mental and the energetic and the practical tools. Like, how do I actually say these things and do it in a way where I feel safe, but I also feel like I'm heard? And that's why, transformational coaching and really skillfully facilitated containers are important to learn these skills. Like, I feel like God gave me the gift of communication, written communication, verbal communication. I still had to learn these skills. I had to learn these skills myself.
Yeah.
And it's worth it. It's worth it because we're so divided, and it's not, we have free will and we can decide to continue to go down that path.
Yeah.
But, you and I don't want that. We want to come together. We want to lock arms, as you say. We want to raise the frequency of humanity. And we care about people, right? Even if they don't agree with us, even if we don't agree with them, we still care about people. We care about humanity as a collective.
Yeah.
And when we learn how to speak and connect and talk with honesty and respect, I just think that opens up so much possibility. And it's really, I call it leading with love.
Oh, I love that when we're learning about respecting others, I think that's when you're in your heart and you're doing your work. You can't hate anybody. You just start seeing them having a bad day instead of being a-holes. that you can see somebody that is really struggling because they're not communicating, they're shut down, they just and they're giving you those looks or whatever. You're like, you just can't fight with anybody because you're just like, oh, okay, it's not about me. And you just start saying these things that are like easy, like all of a sudden you're not carrying all this stress and holding people's energy and all that kind of stuff. So I like your freebie that you have here. So let's talk about that. It says talk to your heart experience. And I have that in the link, everyone. Make sure you grab that on YouTube or wherever you're at and you're hearing this video. So can you tell me more about the talk to your heart experience? What kind of stuff are they getting?
Yeah. So I'm hoping those who are tuning in, this conversation is stirring something in you. And I love this tool, the Talk to Your Heart experience. It's a couple of parts. It's a guided reflection that helps you check in with that inner wisdom to help you get connected to your heart. Because, a lot of us are walking around, myself included, sometimes walking around from the neck up, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of mental energy. And so getting back into the body and getting reconnected with your heart, this is, there's a downloadable guided meditation that comes with this to sort of help you get centered and grounded back into your body. And then there's an assessment that a written assessment that's a downloadable PDF that helps you get clear on what your heart is asking for in this season of your life, in your business, in your leadership. So it's really, it's an eye opener. It's a little bit, if anybody who's listening is a coach or is familiar with coaching, it's a little bit like Wheel of Life. So you look at different areas of your life, but it's also a little bit different process where there's some journaling prompts as well to help you get some clarity around, oh, I'm seeing some new things. What would I like to do about that, if anything?
I love it. I love it. Okay, so everybody grab that link. Thank you, Gayle Nowak, for being with us today. I really, really appreciate you. We really got some great stuff. I thought we were going to have this heart-to-heart conversation. I could just feel it like right away when I just kind of relinquished you and you just start talking and I was like, I think I might cry. Like this emotion came over me. So I appreciate experiencing this space with you today. Thank you for coming on our show.
Yeah, thank you, Rhonda, for holding this space and for the invitation. And I really appreciate your willingness to ask the questions that you asked, and to bring it even deeper. So thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Fresh Talks Global Vision. Thank you for being here and people that are coming in. There'll be links that you can come into our community. You have links to get to Gayle. We have our website, LinkedIn, Instagram, and we have Talk to Your Heart experience. Make sure you get in there. The assessment sounds really interesting. Make sure that you partner with us. # Speaker Locking Arms. Keep opening your voice and allow yourself to start hearing maybe perhaps some more blaming and shaming you're doing to yourself, because the more that you break through on that, the more that you'll be able to live a life that you really can't imagine. Your goals and your vision is going to become bigger. I want you to re-listen to this interview, this conversation, because when you listen through it first, there's going to be quite a few things that you had ahas with. I can hear Gayle's experience, like the depths of it. And the questions were there thinking of you and myself. I'm always wanting to learn. So keep yourself in that mindset transformation entertainment. Find ways to listen to music, poetry, great conversations like this one, podcasts, anything that helps your mind relax so you can really partner, get cohesive with your heart, get cohesive with your surroundings, and let's partner together and use the hashtag if you really feel called to it, because this is something that came up when I got real quiet, that I am on a humanitarian, experience and journey. And we're having virtual retreats. And also we're going to be doing stuff. San Francisco is going to be next year where we're going to bring people together and we're going to talk about this. How can the human experience and your vision, our vision, because I have a board that we are working together to really get this out to you. So I love and appreciate you, Gayle Nowak. Appreciate you, everybody. Love you. Namaste. Thank you, Gayle.
Thank you, Rhonda.